Welcome to The Chemical Show, the podcast where chemical means business. I'm your host, Victoria Meyer, bringing you stories and insights from leaders driving innovation and growth across the chemical industry. Each week, we explore key trends, real-world challenges, and the strategies that make an impact. Let's get started. Welcome back to The Chemical Show, where leaders talk business. Today, I am speaking with Mark Behrman, who is the chairman and CEO of LSB Industries. We are going to be talking a bit about LSB, ammonia, markets, Mark's experience, and more. You are in for a real treat because, again, Mark's got a non-traditional route into the chemical industry, but got here and is doing amazing things with LSB. So, Mark, welcome to The Chemical Show.
Victoria, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining me today. Let's just start with you. Tell us about your origin story. How did you get here?
Well, it is a kind of non-traditional way to land in a CEO role in a chemical company. So I have an undergraduate degree in accounting, and I have an MBA in finance. And like a lot of folks who get an MBA in finance, you want to go into finance. So I went to Wall Street and became an investment banker. And so I did that for over 25 years, primarily focused on industrial companies, which included chemical companies, but also a predecessor business, another business that LSB owned, which was a specialty manufacturer of HVAC products. So having nothing to do with the chemical company. And so I did that, as I said, for 25 years. LSB became a client of mine, the founder, Jack Golson, and I met through a friend. And at first, they were a really small company, and I just gave Jack friendly advice. And as the company grew and one thing led to another, I was able to actually work for LSB and help them with a few transactions. And then that led to becoming friends with Jack and the other senior executives. And in my background as a banker, I always seemed to develop relationships with my clients, and we became friends, sometimes even more than they were clients. So Jack then started to ask me if I would move from New York City to Oklahoma City to join the executive team here at LSB Industries and ultimately move into the chief financial officer role. And after 5 years and two of my kids leaving for college, my wife and I broke down and we made that journey almost 12 years ago. So yeah, I mean, I was excited to join the company. 12 years ago, it's been a real roller coaster, and I did become chief financial officer. And then after 3.5 years, I became CEO of the company. And yeah, we've gone through a lot of journey and stress here, but we turned the company around and we're in a great place today. So it's been a great experience.
That's very cool. And in fact, we're going to come back on this because you've been CEO for quite a long time, especially for a publicly held company. So I want to circle back on that in a minute. But first, tell us a little bit about LSB Industries, because everyone might not be fully familiar with the company.
Yeah, so we're a nitrogen chemical producer, and most people then think about ammonia, since that's the basic feedstock product that we make. So we use natural gas, and we strip the hydrogen out of the methane in natural gas, take nitrogen from the air, combine that, and make ammonia. Most of our ammonia production is upgraded to other value-added products. About 50% of our business is sold as fertilizer, and the other 50% of our business we sell as a chemical intermediate or a chemical feedstock for some other product. And then we also sell a specific product into the mining industry for use in mining. So we do that through 3 integrated facilities that we have here in the Southwest, one in Oklahoma, one in Alabama, and one in Arkansas. And then we do manage a facility for a relationship of ours, Covestro, out of Baytown in Texas, which is outside of Houston. We've been around for a while. Today, we're the 5th largest ammonia producer in North America, and we are the largest merchant marketer of nitric acid in North America.
Very cool. So Mark, is LSB primarily a US-based manufacturer?
Yeah, so we manufacture all of our products in the United States, and we sell our products primarily in the US, but we do sell some product up into Canada and some product down into Mexico.
Got it. So you've been at LSB now for 11 years. How has the company and the market changed during that time?
Well, the company's changed a lot. Company was formed in the mid 60s, 1960s, and actually became a publicly traded company in 1969. And for many years, it was an industrial conglomerate. So a number of different industrial businesses. In fact, in one point in time, we owned a bank. So Jack was a serial entrepreneur, and he really liked doing deals where he thought there could be value. Back in the late 1990s, the company really skinnied down to two main businesses, the one that we're in today, and the specialty manufacturer or the manufacturer of specialty HVAC products. And they went on to grow those businesses. Those were the two primary businesses. In 2017, we sold off the HVAC manufacturing business to solely focus on the chemical business. And quite frankly, the business was really put together through a series of acquisitions. So we first acquired our Arkansas facility from Monsanto in 1983, and then we acquired our Alabama facility in 1998 from La Roche, and then we also acquired our Oklahoma facility from a company that had gone bankrupt, and it was a non-operating facility, and that we restarted that plant prior to me joining the company, but in the end of 2010. And really, when I look at the business, and when I looked at the business some years ago, um, we had really good folks at the plants, and we had some really good assets that maybe needed a little bit of love. But the businesses were never really integrated. So, we bought these collection of assets and there were no commonality of practices. So maintenance practices, operating practices. There was no centralized procurement or any supply chain centralization, logistics centralization. And so they had done a good job to acquire assets, but really never professionalized the business as a whole and really ran it for maximum profitability. And it required a lot of heavy lifting that we started to do in 2019.
So you've really seen, and since you've been CEO, then really it's in that time frame that you've really upgraded and aligned across the entire company. It sounds like.
Yeah, I took a step back and where do we want to be as a company? Where do we want to go? Right? You have to have a vision. You then have to really look at the team because, as my team will tell you, I'm really big on people, and really it's all about the people. I think I learned that in my first career as a banker, working with lots of companies and seeing what makes management teams successful and what doesn't. And at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter to me what business you're in. It could be asset heavy like we are. It could be asset light like a service business. Could be in the medical industry. It could be in the tech industry. It's really all about the people. If you get a really good team of people that have the same common goal, same values, same drive, same level of curiosity, then they just figure out how to get things done. And if you don't, then mediocre businesses, right? And so I think that's not a new revelation. I mean, it's just based on a lot of experience of working with a lot of companies. I came to that conclusion.
Yeah. Well, and it strikes me that being based in Oklahoma City, and I don't know what percentage of your team is there. I think of Oklahoma and I think of Oklahoma City as being a lot of kind of core family, down to earth values, which
Mm.
can often enable that company culture to thrive together.
Yeah, look, I think it's a great place for our headquarters. We're 2.5 hours drive to our Oklahoma plant, maybe 6 hours drive to our Arkansas plant, and then of course our Alabama plants, a little bit further, about 9 hours. So it gives us a way to sort of be centralized. Yeah, we have about 600 people at the company, and about 80 call Oklahoma City home office, with some working remotely. And I think Oklahoma City itself has a great and attractive talent pool. And, we have a large energy industry. And so there are a lot of similarities between energy companies and the assets that they run, whether it's refineries or other things, or even out in the field, just a traditional operating oil and gas company, and some of the same practices that we use in the chemical industry. So it does give us an opportunity to really recruit well where we need to. Most of our people, though, are out at our sites.
Yeah.
And so we recruit locally and tend to recruit locally in those areas if we can.
Yeah. So, Mark, one of the interesting things in a conversation I've been having with lots of leaders across the chemical industry is how they just navigating the global marketplace, right? So, and LSB is largely a North American based company. Certainly, we've seen in a lot of products and product areas significant competition from China as it continues to build and grow and invest. How does this play out for you and just across the ammonia market, ammonia and really in your other downstream markets?
Yeah, so actually, you hit it on the head. We don't produce or sell globally. So, from a tariff perspective of moving product around, it really hasn't impacted us that much. As I mentioned, we sell a little bit up into Canada, and then we sell down into Mexico. And so it's a very small part of our business. And so, we may have some tariff related issues there. I think when I take a step back and think about tariff implications for us, there's actually, some negative implications primarily on when we buy supplies or equipment or things like that, because a lot of those come from overseas. So we've seen some cost escalation from tariffs, and we've resourced here in the U.S. where we can. But actually, it's really helped us out, I think, in our business. China itself produces something called MDI, which is really ultimately polyurethane. And so the US government put some tariffs on that, which allowed US producers where they had excess capacity and they could ramp up production capacity to do that. And a number of those customers are our clients because they use nitric acid to really make MDI or polyurethane. So that's been a real positive for us as we've seen more onshoring of production here. I'd say the other thing would be mining. So mining has really taken off. Now, it's not really China related, but as we try and focus the U.S. on more critical minerals, onshoring of new plants for battery manufacturing, electrification, things like that. We've seen a number of mining companies, including a large customer of ours, Freeport-McMoRan, really increase and invest some capital to increase their production capability, which then requires more product from us. So I think all in all, it has helped us out from a demand standpoint, which we're really happy about.
Yeah, I mean the regionalization, and I think that's the other theme, right, that you're talking about, and others have said, is just the importance of having strength in within your region, and that
Yeah,
there's some
sure.
benefit there. How else do you think about differentiating yourself to your customers? Because as you've pointed out, you're the fifth largest producer of ammonia, and then you've got all your derivative products as well, your nitrogen products. How do you differentiate in this market? Because I personally often think of ammonia as being, it's a commodity, right? It's a pretty
It is.
basic chemical.
Yeah.
And yet your company customers make specific decisions to choose LSB.
Yeah, so I'd love to tell you we're just good guys and our customers like us, and so therefore they just buy product from
That
us. But as
counts.
you pointed, as you pointed out, ammonia is a commodity, and even some of the other upgraded products that we manufacture are commodities. I think when you think about ammonia producers, particularly in the United States, most are focused on the fertilizer markets, right? So most ammonia is really upgraded to fertilizer. And then
Yeah.
you're talking about a really commoditized product. As I mentioned earlier, half of our business is non-fertilizer. So when we talk about nitric acid, and we're the largest merchant marketer of nitric acid in North America, we've been in that market for 30 years. So people know us for nitric acid. People know that we've got multiple plants that produce acid, so there's backup supply. And when you're talking about customers like Dow and Covestro and BASF and Ascend, I mean, these are big chemical
Yeah.
companies that require consistency of supply and backup of supply and commitment to the industry. So we do see some of our larger competitors come into the nitric acid market when maybe the fertilizer markets, the demand's a little soft and they're looking for alternative outlets for their product. But most of our customers are smart enough to know that if the fertilizer markets then become more robust, they're going to see those folks move back into them. And then if they hook their wagons to them, it's really, they could be in some trouble, right? So
Yeah.
I think being committed to the business, having backup supply, doing what we say we're going to do, and obviously then delivering on that and understanding that the customer comes first, right? Our customers are the most important things. Without our customers, we can produce all the product we want, but we have no place to go with it, right?
Yeah, I like that a lot. And I think commitment goes a long way, right? Both directions. And I know, yeah, we've certainly seen across the industry this wavering of commitment at times. And yet we know that when companies are committed to markets, committed to supporting their customers in those markets, and supporting that overall value chain, you get that longevity of relationship and just that sees you through a lot of times.
Yeah, we pride ourselves on having customers that we've had 10 plus years, 20 plus years. I mean, I
Yeah.
think then you really have a relationship, then you're partners as opposed to just a customer supplier relationship.
Yeah. Let's talk digital a little bit. So, I can't go anywhere today without people talking about AI. And what does AI and digital mean to LSB Industries? How are you guys approaching this?
To be honest, we're really trying to figure it out. I think lots of folks have jumped in feet first, all the way in. We're going to go AI because it's the hot topic of the day. On something like AI, really, automation, digitalization, I think you have to have a strategy. You can't just jump in there and decide something sounds cool or someone's got a cool idea. So I think we're trying to figure out what our strategy is. I often get the question, do I see in the future where AI is going to run our manufacturing plants? The answer is no. I think AI will help us run our manufacturing plants, will help us be more predictive in our maintenance practices, not even preventative, but actually predict when we think something's going to happen. Now, we use a lot of systems today, right? Our industry has been using machine learning for a long time, and I think that's maybe a simpler form of AI.
Yeah.
But it is machine learning and it is predictive capabilities. And so we have been using those. But I do think AI has some certain applications that can actually make us more efficient, and make us have higher reliability, make us safer. And I think those are the things that we need to explore and really use AI for. And then, of course, you've got, outside of the manufacturing side of our business, there are applications that we can use AI for customer service, for logistics, for certain back office accounting functions, things like that, which we're exploring today.
Yeah. Do you find that your customers are asking for more digital access or more AI access? Is that something that they're interested in?
I think they're wanting more access to information. So if they want to see where a customer order is, they want to not have to pick up the phone and call. They want to be able to go online, whether it's on a desktop, laptop,
Yeah.
or on their phone handheld, and be able to see where the order is, place an order, things like that. But we don't hear customers saying, we want more automation from you, other than really on fulfillment and customer status, order status.
Yeah, it's results, right? At the end of the day, I think AI is all about results and outcomes, and it's a means to an end. It's not the end.
Yeah, I think, that when I talk to other CEOs and hear what they're doing, it's unfortunate. I think you could go down deep paths and spend a lot of money. And if you don't have a strategy, you may have, when you finally develop a strategy, it may not really be something that you wanted to do long term. So
Yeah.
I do think, like anything else, you've got to take a step back and you really got to think about it, and you've got to have a digital strategy.
Yeah, makes sense. Um, let's talk leadership. You entered the industry from a unique point, and you've been CEO now for 7+ years.
Yeah.
So you've seen a lot. You've seen a lot outside the industry. You've seen a lot in the industry. If you look back at some of the most significant decisions that you've made as a CEO, what's one lesson that you would pass on to other leaders and other CEOs in the industry?
Oh boy, one lesson.
Maybe many. Maybe there's several.
Yeah, we could spend a lot of time talking about lots of lessons learned, but if I take a step back, I mentioned earlier that I really believe it's all about the people. I think when I walked in, when I stepped into the role of CEO and I got my team together, my leadership team, and we talked about it's all about the people. I think they probably thought I was a little crazy. They're
Yeah.
like, no, I don't think so. It's really all the capital that we spend. to maintain and upgrade the plants and debottleneck the plants. And I was like, yeah, no, I don't think so. And at the end of the day, they all believe that today. And the reason is we could spend lots of capital investing in our assets and our plants, but if we don't have the right people to maintain those assets and to operate those assets properly, then what you're really doing is churning capital. So a piece of equipment, a pump that's supposed to last 5 years, lasts 2.5 years, lasts a year. You're just spending multiples of capital on what's really best practice and what's efficient use of capital. I would also say on the commercial strategy, you can sell product or you can optimize where you sell your product to make the most profit. And so again, creating a culture, and it gets back really to culture, creating a culture where you attract the right talent that is entrepreneurial, is collaborative, has a lot of level of curiosity, wants to make things better. Of course, in our industry, everything starts with safety, right? So, keeping people safe. I think culture and people are really important. And sometimes people discount the culture. That's just culture, or culture's a word. It's really not. It's creating the culture. It's creating a set of values that really drive that culture. It's living by those values. It's sometimes making tough decisions on people because they're not living the values, but they could still be really productive, but disruptive at the same time. So again, I think we joke around in our office. If it weren't for the people, it'd be really easy. But it is really about the people.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's great. All right, now so let's flip to the other end of the career curve. And what advice would you give to new entrants? Or maybe what advice would you give to a young Mark Behrman entering this industry and, that wants to achieve success, your level of success perhaps, as they enter the industry? What advice do you have?
I think I started early in my career. For me, everyone's a bit different, but I ask a lot of questions, and it's a way for me to learn. Some people are visual, some people need to hear it. I'm a very curious person, and the curiosity isn't ask questions to try and get people, or ask questions to maybe prove people wrong or something like that. For me, it's always been ask questions because I don't understand, and I really need to understand. And I had a great mentor early on who told me, don't leave my office without you really understanding. And so if you need to continue to ask me questions, ask away. But when you leave my office, I expect that you're going to understand. And so I kind of live by that throughout my whole career and until today. Curiosity is really important. The ability to want to make things better and improve on things. Don't live with the norm and say that's the way it's always been done. It's a terrible phrase. It's a terrible way to think about it. Work hard. I mean, you have to have a really good work ethic. I think that goes without saying. And be entrepreneurial. Being able to think outside the box a little bit. I often find, especially with younger people who are more tech savvy, they do ask a lot of questions if you find the right people. And they have a different lens that they're looking through, and their use of technology is very different than someone like myself. And I've had young engineers come and talk to the executive team about how this company is doing this in this industry, and why couldn't we do that in our company? And it's like, well, it's never been done before, but it's a great question. Why not? Let's give it,
Yeah.
let's explore it. Let's take a look at it. I think the last thing I would say is come up with a lot of great ideas and don't get frustrated. You have to understand that when you prop up ideas to management, especially senior management, they're not bad ideas. They just might not be the right time, the right setting, the right place. And it may take the 50th idea for the company to say, you know what, that's a really good idea. So again, don't be curious, ask a lot of questions, and don't get frustrated.
Yeah, great, great advice. And especially that whole idea thing. Think sometimes we think if my first idea didn't get accepted, then there's no other ideas. No, it's just to your point, it's not the right time, it's not the right place, it's not the right idea. Keep going. So I love that. Mark,
But I do think I would
yeah,
say it's incumbent upon management to give feedback though, and tell people so that they don't get frustrated. Because if you're just going to tell them no,
yeah,
after two or three ideas, someone's going to say, well, it's not worth it. They're not listening to me anyhow, right? So it's a two-way street a little bit,
yeah, I agree. There is an art to giving the right feedback to help people keep going.
for sure.
Yeah. So, Mark, when you look ahead, What's next for LSB? What should we be looking for? We're sitting here at the beginning of 2026. We got a big year ahead of us. What's it look like for you?
Well, we've got a lot of opportunities that we're working on in the company that create a lot of value. So we're really excited about that. When I mentioned earlier that we had to execute a turnaround of the company, you generally focus on plant production and reliability and safety, and then obviously selling your products. So we really focused on selling out all of our production, maximizing production and selling out our plants really from a production standpoint. Then you start to optimize. But what we didn't really focus on as much is being very efficient in how we operate. I would say cost control, things like that. It's not that we're out of control, but I think that you spend more to get to a point where you have reliable plants and assets. And then once you get there, you've got to figure out what's the right operating structure. And so we've got a lot of opportunities with that and other efficiencies and waste streams and other things throughout the company. So we're going to be really focused on that because we think there's a lot of cash flow to capture from that. The other thing that we're really focused on is we've got a carbon capture and sequestration project at our largest facility in Arkansas. And so we've had a lot of great success working with the EPA, and we're excited about the opportunity to get a Class 6 injection well, CO2 injection well permit, hopefully by the end of this first quarter,
Wow.
which will then allow us to complete that project by the end of the year. So we're really focused on completing our carbon capture and sequestration project by the end of this year and actually capturing the CO2 and sequestering beginning Jan 1, 2027.
I think that's really significant, Mark, because as you and I both know, a lot of companies in the past year have put a hold on
Yep,
investments that would fall into carbon reduction, sustainability and stuff. So for you and LSB to continue progressing forward is really a significant step.
I'm probably not different than a lot of other CEOs, right? I mean, it's really tough to spend capital and then not really get much of a return on it just because, we want to reduce our CO2 footprint. But I do think that there are opportunities, and we've found one where you can invest capital, or we have a partner in this case that together we're investing capital and make it profitable. And in conjunction with reducing our CO2 footprint. And I think we just have to look for those opportunities. And I think as an industry, I chair our industry trade association, and I think a lot of my competitors, a lot of our companies are focused on trying to reduce CO2 emissions and reduce their footprint and reduce water usage and reduce power usage. And, I think the industry is very focused on that.
Yeah. I like it. I mean, I think it makes sense. And I think your point about, finding ways to make it profitable is critical. This is what the chemical industry is built on, in my opinion, right? This
Yeah,
inherent circularity of, well, why have a waste stream if we can turn it into something useful? So it's this opportunity to see the problem and create a solution, a profitable solution out of it.
totally agree.
Yeah, love it. Well, Mark, this has been great. I've really enjoyed having our conversation today. So thank you for joining us today on the Chemical Show.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.
Absolutely. And thank you for everyone for joining us today. Keep listening, keep following, keep sharing, and we will talk with you again soon. Thanks for joining us today on The Chemical Show. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and most importantly, share it with your friends and colleagues. For more insights, visit thechemicalshow.com and connect with us on LinkedIn. You can find me at Victoria Meyer on LinkedIn, and you can also find us at The Chemical Show Podcast. Join us next time for more conversations and strategies shaping the future of the industry. We'll see you soon.